Okay, good morning, my dear friends. We are continuing our discussion of the parasha. I want to share with you something which really signifies such an amazing, important idea when it comes to, fighting wars and the vision, the view that we, the Jewish people, have when it comes to milchama, wars, whether we choose those wars for preemptive or defensive actions, or whether we are forced into wars like we're living right now in Israel against our will and having to defend our people, and in this case to return soldiers and of course hostages, which is the greatest mitzvah in the entire Torah. You can pretty much break every single law, pretty much, especially even Shabbat, in order to return them. However, there's an amazing halacha, which is actually one of the Tariah, one of the 613 mitzvot in the Torah, that actually tells us how to act even in the midst of the most challenging and difficult war that a person finds themselves in. And the parasha tells us in chapter 20 of Devarim, our parasha, that let's say you're going to war and you're surrounding a city and there's many people in the city who are there to hurt you, and you have surrounded the city but they're not surrendering. And there's an opportunity to cut down trees to maybe make weapons out of them, or to use as a battering ram. You know, the movies used to hold these big logs, and the soldiers would use those to smash down the doors or destroy the walls of the city. There is a mitzvah, an incredible mitzvah, which you would never have thought would make its way into the Torah. It's a Torah mitzvah that even in that circumstance, you're not allowed to cut down a fruit tree. That's what the Torah tells us. You can cut down other trees to use for shelter, protection, weapons, but never cut down a fruit tree. By the way, the halacha, the mitzvah to this day, for any reason, you should not cut down a fruit tree. There are synagogues that I know of which were built around fruit trees, and you walk into the synagogue, I think there's one in Brooklyn actually, and a few in Eretz Israel, where there's a fruit tree like sticking out in the middle of the synagogue. Maybe not the sanctuary, but definitely the lobby area. Because a fruit tree, the Torah tells us, is something that gives to us, that will give to us in the future. And by cutting down the tree, you're showing a lack of gratitude to God for giving us this amazing gift that is the fruit tree. In 1 second. Yeah, exactly. That is how we see the gifts of trees, especially fruit trees, even in the midst of war. Now, why is this mitzvah mentioned in the midst of a war? And the answer is, and it's so relevant to us, especially today while we're fighting wars on all fronts in Israel, that even, and this really speaks to who the Israeli Defense Forces are today, and Jewish armies have been for a long time. And that is even in the midst of war, while things are so bad, people, many soldiers, many armies in the world act with complete and absolute depravity. This was never the Jewish way. It may seem that way, the way they depict us in the media is performing genocide and the like, but this is not true. Absolutely not true. When it comes to fighting wars, there is always a sensitivity. Yes, it's a war, and we're still killing people, right? Because we've been forced into it to protect ourselves, protect our nation. That is a mitzvah. However, even while the war is being fought, in the midst of it, there has to be a level of humanity that we keep, which says, not the fruit tree. It's also, by the way, a testament to emunah, because you're not thinking you're going to have to destroy everything because you're going to have to get out of there. You're thinking that we're going to take control of this area now to bring peace to it, and we're going to be able to enjoy the fruit tree ourselves. So there's a level of emunah, faith in God, that you're actually going to win this war and be able to enjoy the fruit tree that is in front of you. But look how the sensitivity the Torah expects of a Jew, even a soldier, in the midst of battle. While the battle is raging, you're going to see this apple tree, this orange tree, this sabra tree, like we have all over Israel. You can't destroy it. Because life is still life. It's a giving object, and that is meant to become part of who we are. That while we're dealing with a situation like war, the humanity, the sensitivity towards even something, an inanimate object like a tree, a fruit tree that gives fruit, that has given, does and will in the future, should not be destroyed. And by the way, this sensitivity travels right throughout the soul of the Jewish people. And that is why when it comes to our armies, to this day, the Israel defense, not the Israel attack forces, Israel defense forces, no matter what they tell you, we perform genocide, nonsense. We are the highest, I really believe this, I know this, the highest level of concern for civilians are always the highest level of respect that we have. Yeah, even when we want to clear out a nest of terrorists, we drop leaflets to make sure the civilians leave. There is this thing, the gug, right? The roof nakash baga, I think it's called, is where they will drop like this noise bomb. Doesn't destroy anything, just creates a tremendous noise on the top of a building, and then everyone has to flee from the building, so that unfortunately many terrorists leave, but at least the civilians are not killed in there. So this goes back thousands of years. This is just a clear example from the Torah of a sensitivity towards an inanimate object, how much so towards innocent civilians. Yeah. And that is there is actually a code of conduct. You can read it online. A code of conduct that the Israeli army has held. Other nations, Russia, Ukraine, they wipe out thousands of people in order to get one terrorist. We are very, very careful, always have been, always will be, when it comes to dealing with these situations. Yeah.